Hey everyone, so I'm doing my next section of my book. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And I'm focusing on this same chapter, when you're losing, everything hurts. So I'm doing a lot better today compared to yesterday. Yesterday, every time I thought about the fact that I couldn't pay my rent, it was overdue, I couldn't go to President Carter's memorial services, I couldn't go out and do something because all my credit cards are maxed out, my overdraft is maxed out. I just started crying. And I was sitting and thinking, you know what, God, this plan of yours is not my plan. When I became a spiritual director and I completed my master's and I did all these things, I didn't expect my life to go into a life of poverty. And of course I did ask God, like, what do you want? Do you want me to land up living in a tent on the street somewhere? Because I do everything right and I get crucified. And it's been going on since the time I was a kid. Because, I mean, really, I'm not surprised that people opt for euthanasia in this country. Because no one wants to be a burden on others financially. Especially when you're educated, you're hardworking, you have good ethics, you have good values. And the people who are milking the country and who are corrupt are the ones that are succeeding. So I took it into prayer and I left it there. But I didn't get up in time for the funeral either. So I'll have to watch that. I started watching it. And that made me late for joining Roddy's talk this morning, so I had to apologize for that. But you can see how when you are in a bad place emotionally and nothing's working, you can see how it impacts every area of your life. So I guess if you don't know me, you must be wondering, well, why was it so important for you to go to President Carter's memorial service? One of them, whichever one you could get to. So I'm going to use that to talk about this chapter today for me. And when you assess the loss, this loss is, you can't put a monetary value on it because it's not going to come again. It's a specific time and place and moment in my life that I will not be able to go back and say, oh, let's have the funeral again now. Let's hold a memorial service again now because Belinda can come now because now she's got the money. So it's a big loss. You can't put a monetary value on it. That's just the reality. And that's why it hurts so much. It hurts so much that I had to turn off my camera yesterday and just stop talking. Because Jimmy Carter was not a rich man. He grew up in farm country. He grew up in a poor area. Similar to Elvis, he didn't have wealth to start with. And so it's this idea of the American dream that you can start out anywhere and you can land up becoming a world leader. You can become one of the greatest entertainers in history. You can become anything you want to be. And what he did for our country when Zimbabwe got independence, he brought that hope that, okay, you know, this is going to be black majority rule, but it has to be for everyone. It has to be fair. It has to be for all races. And that's the hope I had in 1980 when my country got independence. But even at that age, I was saying this is not going to work because you could hear the black leaders that were talking. They were saying, we want this for black people. We want it for Africans, and Africans are black. So if you are not black and you are not born here, then basically we'll see what happens because it's for our people. So even at that age, I was like, this is not going to work. They don't care about us. They're not going to be interested in making it fair for everybody. And down the line, there's going to be problems. And a lot of people were saying that, not everybody, but a lot of people were. And then you saw how the country got run down. First it started with the post offices. You'd go to the post office and there wouldn't be enough tellers open. You'd go to the banks, the same thing. And slowly and surely it went down, because communism supports the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. But he brought that sense of hope. Losses can leave us emotionally stuck. They can leave us saying, okay, so this has been going on for so long, when is it going to change? Because I'm the type of person, if I had had enough to buy that ticket to go to America, even if it was just enough to buy that ticket, I would have bought that ticket, signed up for one of the memorial services, and I would have gone. Because I'm like, you know what, you only live once. You're not coming back for an encore. You're not coming back to relive this moment. So I would have done it, but I don't have a penny to my name. I don't have any savings. I don't have anything. So all I can do is when I go to church, I can light a candle for him, and I can pray for him at home and his family. And losses can leave us mentally defeated. So we have to learn to manage our disappointment. And it's a big disappointment. Believe you me, for me, it's a big disappointment. Because the opportunities that we had after that to go to the schools that then became not segregated, they were not only for the whites anymore. We could travel on the same buses as the whites. We could go swim in the same swimming pools. We could go to the same universities. We didn't have all that. We couldn't even go and sit in the Wimpy, the Canadian Wimpy, and eat. We couldn't even go to the same restaurants, go to drive-in on the same days. We couldn't do anything. So independence brought a sense of hope with trepidation that we didn't have. But to come back to the present, because he's another one that's gone, like Mandela and Gandhi. They're gone. So now it's up to us. And that's what touched me in that one campaign appeal when I had seen Mandela speaking on making poverty history. That's what I got involved in. Because for me, it was about building financial wealth. It was about home ownership. It was about owning your own land and your own property. And look how my life has turned out. It's not the end, but look at how it's turned out. And look at how it's going. And I'm doing everything right. And people who are junior to me are doing the same job as me and being paid the same salary as me. And on top of that, they have properties that their parents bought that they're living in, so they can save their money for a down payment. I don't have any of that. So for me, it's not looking rosy. Let's put it that way. It's not looking like a bright future that I had when I graduated from Regis College or Wits University, where I thought, okay, now I've built up the networks, I've put in the time, I've invested in people, I've helped people. And so it's, how do I move forward from this? And one of the things I did is I took action. So I signed the memorial book for him, the condolence book. I didn't publish my thoughts because they are personal and they are only for him and his family and for the foundation. I didn't put it on social media, but I left a message. I could risk looking like a fool for giving this talk, but I'm not going to let it stop me because everybody makes mistakes. And people who think they don't make mistakes and it's only me, I think they need to reevaluate where they are. I could say, well, why did this happen to me? Because it's unfair. And it is unfair. And it's been unfair from the time I was born. But that doesn't mean that I can't take action and move forward. And I can't keep taking action. Because that's the only thing I can do. I could go into the fatigue tab and say, I'm tired of this. I can't be bothered to do this anymore. I really don't see the point of all of this, and just give up. But then why did I train to become an executive assistant, to get my degrees, my qualifications? Why did I do all that? Because people who are born here think I have an attitude of entitlement. Yet they were born into rich countries with every opportunity, 10 times more the opportunities than me, and they're white, and they'll turn around and tell me I have an attitude of entitlement. Does it make sense? I think they need to grow up, to be honest. And I could also fall into the comparison trap and say, well, look at all these young people. They're coming up, they're traveling the world, but they're not doing it on their own. They're getting a lot of help from their elders, from friends, from family, even to buy their properties. So I beat myself up because I hate the fact that this has been going on for years and years and years. If somebody had just given me a little bit of help to keep my property for me and my mom, things could have been very different. But I didn't get that, so I have to accept the loss and move forward. I covered the inspiration trap where you don't feel like doing it, but feelings don't come into it. We have to have the will to do it. And in Catholic theology, the will is a big part of faith. You can feel or not feel. But if you have the will, if you have that resolve to say, I am going to do this, you have to motivate yourself and find a way to do it. The same way I join Roddy's talks on a Saturday. I could say, I don't feel like doing this. But if I want to become as good as him, if I want to go on transformational trips with political leaders, which has always been one of my goals, then I have to do it. I don't get invited to the one campaign for the fun of it, to events. I get invited because I signed up for it and it's a responsibility and I love to do it. But if you don't have that desire to do something and you don't have that passion to do something, you're not going to do it. You're just like, well, for what? Why should I bother doing this? And then the public opinion trap, what will other people think? That's a big thing with the banks in Canada. It's a big thing about how things look. That's why instead of doing the right thing, they're always worrying about how things look. And that's why our society is crumbling. It literally is crumbling. When you have over 2 million people going to food banks, you bring the food home and it's rotten, and you have to have a system put in place because on the honor system it's not working and people are taking advantage, going 5 and 6 times, and some of us can't even go once. There's a problem. And the self-image trap. I know I'm a failure. I don't hide it. If you put in so much work and people say they like you, they trust you, they want you to be successful, but you don't get those opportunities, you're not a success. And if you're earning $17 an hour, the same as somebody who just graduated, while your counterparts are earning $100,000 a year, you're not a success. You're just not. And that's the reality, and that's what I am working to change. I want to buy my own house, I want to buy my own cars, I want to have that financial freedom. And that's always what I've wanted. If you don't want to have those things, don't bother studying, don't bother learning from the best, don't bother educating yourself. I'm not a teacher, and I don't want to become a teacher. I'm a human resources professional and an executive assistant. That's my field. That's what I studied and that's what I do. And I also took accounting courses at university. But I have no desire to go into teaching. I don't think I would enjoy it. Yes, I do. I like this John Maxwell. I like doing the speaking work. I like doing workshops. but it's with adults. It's not with, I enjoyed it when I did the children's liturgy at the church, but I don't want to go into being a teacher. That's not my desire. And I've only got one life to live. So this is a big loss for me. I won't forget it. I'll always remember it. And losses never leave us the same. I will never be the same. To know that I had the honor of being invited to attend a memorial service for President Jimmy Carter, and I couldn't go. I couldn't go because I didn't have the money. I will never be the same. Yeah, I can watch it on TV, I can share the posts, I can let people think whatever they like, oh, she's not even American, why is she sharing that post? What's it got to do with her? I'll take that risk. That's perfectly fine with me. But I can be grateful for his life. I can be grateful for the opportunities that came out of Zimbabwe gaining independence. I can be grateful that I got to go to university, that I was no longer treated as second class and told I could not sit in the wimpy, or I had to sit right at the front of the theater in the cinema to watch a movie, or I could only go to the cinema on certain days, or I couldn't bank the same way white people did. I couldn't travel the same way they did. Only certain carts were left for us non-whites on the train. If you look at even the luxury trains now that are operating in Africa, it's changing slowly, but the majority of it is white people. It's the white people that are going on those luxury trains and all that. So I can give gratitude for President Carter's life, for the changes it brought to Zimbabwe, for the hope that it gave me as a young woman growing up there. Even as a child, I hoped for a better world. I took action. I participated in ragtime days. I participated in whatever I could at church. I fought for whatever I could get to do. I was never one to sit back and say, that's the way it is, so I'm not going to do anything. I fought for it. The same way now when I signed those petitions for the One campaign to get vaccines out to Africa or to have treatable diseases treated in Africa. It's not easy work. The amount of work that we do, it's quite a lot. We phoned Minister Ahmed, I phoned him this week to ask for Canada to keep its pledge and its promise. I sent a holiday card for him for the One campaign. It's not personal. Yes, it's personal because I am doing it, but it's for an initiative I'm involved in. I'm honored to be invited to the events where there are dignitaries and politicians and people who know what Zimbabwe went through. Especially the black doctors that are here, the doctors, the lecturers, they say to me, Belinda, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. So I left, and what happened with England and the Lancaster Agreement, and they wanted us to come back and just say, here's a piece of land for you, and now come back. For what? But they do tell me, they say for your generation, things are 100 times harder than we had it. The doctors have told me, they said when we came here, it was much easier for us. People used to give us grants, they used to give us bursaries, they used to help us to get our qualifications. They were eager to help us succeed. He said, with your generation, they're stingy, they tell you you have attitudes of entitlement, they don't want to help you succeed. He said it's much, much harder compared to when we came into this country. So at least that helps me, that consoles me to know that, okay, I have to persevere and that I can go out, I can try. It doesn't mean that everything is easy, and it's a loss. It's a loss I will never forget. I will never forget receiving that invitation and knowing that I couldn't go because I didn't have money. It's a big loss for me because the independence came and there was not a thing the whites could do about it. Nothing. Because they had it all. The creme de la creme. They had the big houses, the big cars. They had the access to the best education, the best opportunities. They had it all. So it's a big loss for me. And to make it worse, it came from a white president. Their losses came from their own community. It was their own communities that started saying, no, this is wrong, we can't carry on like this. So what did they do? They put our people in jail, they kidnapped us, they beat us up, they summoned us to police stations, they accused our families, all the things Canada does now. They carded us, they treated us like criminals. Not to say that there were not good white people in what was Rhodesia, they were, but I'm talking about the majority. And I cried. I used to cry. Why can't I go and sit in that Wimpy? Why can't I go and sit in that cinema? One of our Muslim families bought that cinema when independence came. And then we could go and sit anywhere. That it's a big loss for me. I will always treasure the fact that they chose to invite me, to say, book your place, come early, there will be a lot of people. I will always treasure that. But the loss, you can't measure it. All I can do is take actions, try to move forward, and pray about it. And keep asking God, what plan is this? Because the things I wanted for my life are the things that most women want. To get married, have a family, raise my family, earn my own income. And it never worked out that way. I had no stability. I got the poorest paying jobs. I couldn't save anything. The property I bought, I landed up losing. So I do what I can, but this is unfair. And it's structural injustice. It's structural injustice. All I can do is keep fighting it. Because the people that have the support and have what they want, they're not going to give it to me. Why should they? What do you think they care? Do you think they want to be in my position? Of course they don't. Of course they don't. But I have this opportunity now with John Maxwell. I have my spiritual direction, and I'm an executive assistant, and I'm going to keep applying for those jobs. And I want to work with somebody like Jimmy Carter, somebody who says, hey, this is wrong. Not the banking executives like Teresa Bowman who told me I have an attitude of entitlement, or Jean de Gagne. I won't go back to them, because at the end of the day, it wasn't a good fit. They're generous to people, they're kind to people, but people who think like them, people who they know see things the way they see it. I don't see it that way. I did a good job for them. I was respectful of them. But at the end of the day, I didn't really have a choice. So I had to move on, and I've developed other skills in the process. But today, I'm much better than I was yesterday. And I'm moving forward. But I will remember President Jimmy Carter when I go to Mass, and his life and the hope he brought to me as a girl in Zimbabwe. That independence would not have come without America, and everybody knows it.